The next person I'm going to introduce, who will then introduce Dick Morris, is, well, a real old friend for 3 years. But for what we've been through together, it feels like 15 years, frankly. Ron Wilcox is one of the state coordinators for Tea Party Patriots. And we've been out, yeah. Last time around, about the only moniker that I would get was that he was a Tea Party candidate. I've expanded on that somewhat this time around, but Ron Wilcox and I were standing on the corners of Southbury, standing in front of the town hall at Cheshire with our signs, speaking to the folks, and trying to rally up interest in what we believed in. Tea Party has made a difference in this country. Tea Party gets out the votes. Tea Party represents those people. The Tea Party represents those people whom we used to call, in Nixon's days, the silent majority. They remember that? Now, they become a vocal majority. Bob McGuffey, let me also mention you. Bob McGuffey, Right Principles. So strong supporter for 3 years. Thank you, Bob. So without further ado, I'd like to recognize to the podium Ron Wilcox.
Wow, that's kind of hard to follow up on. One of the things that, when Mark asked me to say a few words tonight for him, I thought, yeah, no problem. If anybody shares Tea Party values, it's certainly Mark Greenberg. But when I sat down this afternoon to try to write something out, I came up with blanks. And the reason being is that for the last 3 years, I've made an art of criticizing Mark every possible chance I get. Every one of his speeches, every time he's on television, he gets an email from me that says, Mark, you should have done this. Mark, you can't say this. Mark, you got to do this. So during that period of time, we've developed a great friendship. And if anybody, I got to look to make sure that's correct. If anybody deserves to serve us, it's Mark Greenberg. He is a principled man, and he's a man who has evolved his principles. When we first started out, when I first called him about 3 years ago, I asked Mark, would you be willing to speak at one of our Tea Party rallies? And Mark was very enthusiastic and said, absolutely. And Mark came down and he gave a great speech. But after that, what I found was every single rally we had, every single event that we threw, Mark was there. Mark was always supporting our efforts, always being very vocal about the values that we all stand for. Mark stands for, in case nobody knows these values, these conservative core values that at times escape people, but Mark believes in constitutional law, limited government, and free markets. He is the only candidate that I have seen in the last 3 years that has been consistent with every message. Regardless of who he speaks to, he does not alter his principles. And this is the type of person that we need to support. This is the type of person that can go down to Washington and bring those values back and restore the greatness our country once had. Not only that, I hate to say this, Mark, but Mark has great intellect. Mark is somebody that actually comprehends how our government works. He understands and can identify the problems, and he's somebody that can come up with solutions. I don't know of anybody else running right now that has that capability and that depth. I could go on and on about why I feel Mark is the right candidate. But I'm sure everybody here understands the importance of this election and the importance of the primary on Tuesday. We have a man sitting behind me that can really make a difference. We have a man that can make a statement to the rest of the country that yes, there are conservative values still alive in Connecticut. We owe it to ourselves, to our children, and to generations to follow to get this man elected and to make him win this primary on Tuesday. And what I'm asking all of you is to get involved, get some urgency, get 10 people to the polls on Tuesday, and let's get Mark elected. Thank you very much. And I'm really embarrassed about this. It is Mark's show, but I have to say something else. The person that I'm going to introduce, I consider to be a great friend. A friend of the Tea Party and a friend of our nation. Over the last 3 years, any of you who've watched Fox News have seen this individual. And this individual has cut through all of the bullshit that we hear from all the other political pundits. He brings clarity to the picture, he brings hope to the picture, and he brings an understanding of how this process works. From my standpoint, he has been the best friend of the Tea Party.
Yeah.
From the very beginning, when people thought that, you know, who are these people, you know, these radicals out there that are promoting these conservative whatevers, Dick Morris was the one person who stood up and explained to people exactly what we stood for and exactly the importance of our movement. And since that day, he continues to support us. So it's with great pleasure that I introduce a real friend to any conservative, Dick Morris.